Hello, folks. Hello, Winter Games. My name is Phill Agnew, and today I want to talk about applying behavior science and consumer psychology and the understanding that we have of the human brain. I want to talk about applying that to marketing and specifically get into product marketing. Now, this lecture is going to be a little less detailed about product marketing in general and delve into how I think we can improve our marketing on a whole. But as a senior product marketer at Hotjar, these are lessons that I definitely apply every single day in my own product marketing. So I hope it is useful to all of you listening. If you want to get in touch with me whilst I'm presenting during the presentation, you can reach out to me on Twitter. I'm P_Agnew on there. So yeah, as I said, I am Phill Agnew. I'm Senior Product Marketer at Hotjar. But what qualifies me to talk about behavior science and consumer psychology? Well, I host Nudge, and Nudge is, I think, the UK's top behavior science marketing podcast. It's a top UK marketing podcast, regularly ranks in the top 10 on Apple iTunes and has over 150,000 downloads with 155-star reviews. On the show, I spend a lot of time chatting to consumer psychologists and behavior scientists. These are people who attempt to understand how we make decisions, how we decide the things we decide, and I apply a lot of their findings from the world of behavior science to my product marketing. But I'm going to kick off with something that I don't think many people might say today, or at least I don't really like to say, and it's something I don't often admit as a marketer, but I think that marketing can be incredibly glib. I think that it's so intensely focused on highlighting positives that all too often it comes across as being quite superficial. And this is the case in major advertising campaigns, marketing slogans, but also things like product launches as well. They all tend to say the same stuff. So we'll start high level with big strategic slogans. Gillette is the best a man can get. KFC is finger licking good. With Coca-Cola, your opening happiness. These are all intensely positive. They focus on the positives, they focus on the benefits, which sort of makes sense. And it's the case with these big multinational campaigns from these big multinational companies, but it's also the case with us in SaaS. Intercom is the best way to connect with your customers. Zendesk are champions of customer service. And hey, I make the same sort of use of marketing as well. At Hotjar, we talk about how you can understand how users behave and feel on your site, what they need and how they feel fast. We're highlighting positives, and it sort of makes sense to highlight positives. If you want to get somebody to buy something, it makes sense to talk about how great that thing is. It makes sense to talk about the positives. If you wanted to hook your roommate up with a work colleague, for example, you wouldn't talk about how that work colleague perhaps puts tuna in the microwave. No, you'd talk about all of the wonderful positive things about that work colleague. That's how you get people to do something, get people to take action, highlight the benefits from them doing it. It's conventional wisdom. But is it right? Because I think that deep down, and I think a lot of people would probably agree with this, is that deep down we're not solely drawn to positive things. Often we're drawn towards negativity. We're drawn towards darker, sort of negative things. And this is, something called the negativity bias. This is not just fiction. This is fact. It's been proven. And we can see this in all sorts of areas. So if you open up the news app on your phone, you'll see it. News articles on a whole highlight negativity because we're more likely to read negative posts. YouTube channels, another great example. You go on YouTube, you'll see compilations of fail videos, fail compilations. While success compilations, they don't really exist. But my favorite example of this actually comes from my favorite Instagram account, which is called Shit London Guinness. Now, Shit London Guinness shares pictures of the worst pints of Guinness that people have been served in London. These Guinness with big, frothy heads, bubbly heads, spilling down the sides, and, the absolute thing that you cannot ever do, which is serving Guinness in a Foster's glass. For anyone in the UK, you'll know that is just pure sin. But this account has 167,000 followers. It has an awful lot of people who want to see these pictures, who want to see negativity. And how many people want to see positivity? How many people want to see the flip side? Well, we can see that by looking at Guinness's own UK account. It only has 14,000 followers. So Shit London Guinness has 10 times more than the UK's own Guinness account. And I think that shows that we are drawn towards negativity. We actually do like negative things. Yet, if you suggested a product campaign, a product launch campaign, a strategy around your latest offering that talked about the negatives, that talked about the negative reasons why maybe not to use your product, you'd get laughed at. If you were put in charge of product marketing for McDonald's and you were told to come up with a new slogan or strategy, if you said that you want to change their slogan from "I'm loving it" to "because you've only got £4," you'd get kicked out of the boardroom. But this honesty, I think, is actually worthwhile trying. We can see if we look at the negativity bias and if we look at stats that this type of marketing actually tends to work. And it's a shame that people don't do this type of marketing and product marketing more, because I think this marketing is based on science, it's based on fact. And if we try and understand the people who might view our ads, if we try and understand the decisions they make and the reasons behind why they make those decisions, we might be more likely to test out a weird advertising campaign or product launch like this. See, the thing is, and the thing that I think most marketers and most product marketers need to remember is that a lot of our decisions are just based on gut instinct. We just go with the first thing that comes to our mind. Sure, we might leverage a bit of data, and sure, we might get a few data points to back up our decisions, but really the impetus behind our decisions is based on gut instinct. And that leaves a lot of us actually in this era of the madmen, just going with our experience, our thoughts, what we think to be right, what our boss tells us, and not actually basing our decisions on science, on evidence, on facts. And that's just a shame, because I think we can get a lot of benefit from applying science. And I don't just mean we as in marketing in general, I mean we as in sort of product marketers specifically. We can get a lot of benefit out of applying science. I'll just move myself so you can read the text on screen there. Because we've spent around 100 years, and I say we, I mean consumer psychologists, behavior scientists, psychologists as a whole, have spent around 100 years really, truly, deeply understanding why people make decisions, how people's brains work, how people perceive the information we give them. And if we start to leverage some of the laws that we've discovered, some of the biases that we've noticed that humans have, if we leverage those and use them in our product marketing, in our messaging, in our positioning, in our pricing, and in our strategies, I think we can create far more effective work. I think we can create stuff that really resonates with consumers. Because there are hundreds and hundreds of different biases that we all have as consumers and as people that marketing can leverage in order to create better results. And I'll just skirt through a couple of them sort of quickly through you, and a lot of them you will have heard of before. Social proof. Social proof is the idea that you're more likely to follow the actions of others. If you're walking down the street and you see a load of people looking into a shop window, you can't help but look into that shop window as well. See, the problem in product marketing is social proof sort of starts and ends with logos on a website. If you say, oh, we've put logos on the website, that's social proof done, you're only using a tiny part of this nudge. There's so much more that you could leverage. A great example of how you can use social proof is, and again, some of you may well have done this, but leveraging the messaging around your products. So Richard Shotton, author of The Choice Factory and sort of acclaimed behavior scientist who's great at applying it to marketing, he went into his local London pub and he asked the barman, what is your best selling beer on tap? And the barman said, I don't know what it was, maybe London Pride. He said, this is our best selling one from the last week. And Richard said, do you mind if we test putting a sign on top of this beer just for the next week and just tell people that it's best selling, just to see if that changes the amount of sales we get? The idea here is that if we tell people that it's best selling, perhaps we'll actually get more people to buy it because people follow the actions of others, and that's social proof. So we put on this banner and monitored sales the week previous and the week after, and that one a pint of London Pride, or that one cask ale, got 2.5 times more sales. And what's interesting here is the sales of the other beers didn't go down. Sales in general just rose. And that's the benefit of utilizing a nudge. And that's a way we could use that sort of effect in marketing. But there's others as well. The endowment effect is a fantastic nudge that you can use to increase loyalty for your product. And one of the best examples of this comes from a study from 2006 by Nunez and Drez. And what they did is they gave a large amount of participants one of two loyalty cards, sort of coffee loyalty cards. You'll all know these, you've all got these before. Now, one of the loyalty cards, the one on the left, which you see here, had 7 stamps to collect. The other one had 9 stamps to collect. But the one that had 9 stamps to collect, the one on the right, the first 2 stamps were already stamped in by the barista as it was handed over to the consumer. Now, if we all just thought of marketing in conventional wisdoms, if we all just accepted that the best way to get something to do something is to talk to them about the positives, and if we all just assume that to be true, we'd probably say that there should be no difference between these two loyalty cards. They both have 7 stamps to collect. People still have to go and buy seven coffees before they get a free one. Why should they act any differently? But the endowment effect tells us that a project that has already begun is more likely to be completed. And because of this, that bias means we are actually more likely to finish the loyalty card that has had 2 stamps plugged in for us, even though we still have the same amount of coffees as we would need to collect as the other example. In fact, we're 82% more likely to complete the coffee card that's had 2 stamps plugged in for us and go and buy those remaining 7 coffees. Now we can use this, we can apply this to our marketing, and especially in product marketing and things like onboarding and upselling. But there's more. Loss aversion. How do you stop people churning from your product? Well, you could leverage loss aversion. This was discovered by Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast and Slow, and he shared that losses feel twice as painful as equivalent gains. We really don't like losses, and we'll go out of our way to avoid them. Now, Amazon take this to heart. When you try and leave Amazon Prime, they don't do a message which is talking about the benefits that Amazon Prime they give you. No, they don't fall for that sort of marketing bullshit. They don't say something like Amazon Prime offers free delivery and exclusive benefits. Are you sure you want to cancel? No. They leverage loss aversion. They apply a bit of behavior science to their messaging, and they came up with this. Phil, you've saved £313 in delivery fees since August 2019 by being a Prime member. Do you want to confirm your cancellation? Now that message, because of loss aversion, because we're so desperate to avoid as many losses as possible, is much more harder to resist. And according to, I think it's Richard Chataway in his book Behavior Business, published last year, I think that led to a 42% reduction in churn. I'll give you one more, anchoring. So anchoring, again, is an example that a lot of us will know. Anchoring is the idea that when information is scarce, when we're making a decision that perhaps we haven't made before, we will lean heavily on in the reference point that we have available to us. So if you go into a cocktail bar in a new city that you've never visited before, straight off the airport, and you see that the most expensive cocktail is £20, you might think that a £15 cocktail is a reasonable price to pay. If you fly to another city, again, go to the first cocktail bar, sit down, it's the first place you go out of the airport and you see the most expensive cocktail is £6, you might think that £15 would be an absurd amount to pay. And that's the power of anchoring at heart. But anchoring can apply to your marketing as well. And I think the best, most simple example of this comes from Phil Braden's brilliant book, Decoded. And he shared an example of Snickers when they launched their new ice cream. Snickers is a sort of chocolate bar, definitely sold in the UK, probably elsewhere in the world. And they launched an ice cream and they wanted to try if a ridiculous anchor would encourage people to buy more Snickers. So they tested 2 marketing messages. One, which is classic, just saying exactly what we want you to do, buy Snickers for your freezer. When people saw this message, they sold around 1.4 bars of Snickers on average to people in the supermarket. And then they tried a bit of anchoring, a ridiculous bit of anchoring. They said, buy 18 Snickers bars for your freezer, a ridiculous anchor. But it worked. It increased the amount people bought almost by 2 times. The average sales of Snickers bars per customers went up to 2.6 bars. This is the effect of applying a little bit of science, applying a little bit of behavior science to your messaging. And I'll finish with one of my favorite examples because it shows how powerful these nudges can be. KFC in Australia had a new service or a new promotion to offer. And they had a classic dilemma, which all of us face as product marketers, which is what messaging would be most effective at encouraging people to buy our new offering. So KFC, their offering was chips for $1. Really simple offering. And they wanted to know what was the message that would encourage the most people in Australia to buy. Rather than doing what a lot of us do, which is just make a decision based on gut instinct, they applied some science. So they got the best copywriters across the Yum Yum brand who owned KFC. And bear in mind, they spend over $1 billion on marketing each year. So this is a lot of smart people in a room. They got the best copywriters they had in-house to go and write 90 different messages to trial and test to see which would be the most effective in promoting these $1 chips. These were brilliant messages. The Colonel has never been so generous. Chips for $1. I don't know, loads of others. Aussie's favourite chips just for $1. Loved from Perth to Brisbane, they're just $1. Some good stuff in there, some bad stuff, but some good stuff as well. And what was the most effective message? Was it one of these brilliantly designed storytelling messages that, Don Draper would be happy with? No. The winner was simple scarcity. Chips for $1, limited at 4 per customer. And that was the winner out of 90 different messages, and they tested these on Facebook, put a decent amount of budget behind to really see what works. The one slogan that really captured attention, chips for $1, limited to 4 per customer. So maybe the next best SaaS offering that gets the next $1 billion valuation will just be someone who who limits the offering to 4 seats per account or something like that, because that's how effective applying behavior science to marketing can be. But the one I really want to focus on for you folks in product marketing, because I think it affects us a lot, is the pratfall effect. The pratfall effect is a bias that shows that we're drawn towards things that aren't perfect. It's why Shit London Guinness gets so many followers, and it's why McDonald's could, I think, benefit from renaming their slogan. Now, it's not just based on opinion, the pratfall effect. There is evidence to back it up, evidence that suggests that we prefer imperfection. It was discovered back in 1966 by a Harvard psychologist named Elliot Aronson. In his study, Aronson recorded an actor answering a series of questions. In the first version of the experiment, the actor answered incredibly well, getting 92% of the questions correct. However, after the actor answered the final question, he spills a cup of coffee all over his trousers, making a fool of himself, making a mistake. The actor then recorded the exact same series of questions, answering again with a 92% accuracy, only this time he didn't spill the coffee on himself on the last question. The researchers then showed these 2 different videos to participants and asked them to rate how likable the actor was. What they found was, against sort of conventional wisdom, when the actor showed a flaw, showed a weakness, spilt coffee on themselves, they were rated as more likable. We seem to prefer imperfection. In Aronson's word, the pratfall effect made the actor more appealing, increasing his approachability and making him seem more human. A similar study was carried out by a team at Swansea University led by Joe Sylvester. Now this time, the researchers wanted to not just see if revealing a weakness made you more likable, they wanted to see if it made you more successful. So they applied this pratfall effect to job hiring and interviews. They got 2 pretty much identical candidates to interview for dozens of different jobs and for dozens of different interviewers. Now the candidates had the same set of skills, they had the same experience, they had the same strength. There was only one difference. The team found that when one of the candidates, there was only one difference, and that difference was that one of the candidates would declare a weakness about themselves, where the other candidate wouldn't declare a weakness. And again, conventional wisdom suggests, well, if you've got 2 identical candidates and one doesn't declare a weakness, surely that one that doesn't show that there's something wrong with them would be more likely to get the job. But that wasn't the case. The team found that when one of the candidates revealed a weakness, they were considered more likable, but importantly, they were also more likely to be offered the job. Highlighting your flaws or your weaknesses, perhaps by spilling your coffee on yourself or revealing an interview in a job interview, can make you more likable, but also make you more successful. And why is this important to product marketers? Well, you can apply this exact same bias to products, because at the end of the day, people buy products, and it's people that prefer imperfection. So consumer psychologist Adam Ferrier, who I've had on Nudge before, he proved this by asking a representative sample of 226 people a question about cookies. He showed them pretty much the 2 cookies you see on screen here. Now these cookies are identical, apart from one small difference. One cookie has an imperfection. It has a rough edge, whereas the other cookie is perfectly smooth. What do you think people preferred? Well, the cookie with the rough edge, the cookie with that pratfall effect, was a favourite, with 66% of people preferring it. The pratfall effect didn't detract from the appeal, it actually increased it. Now, I think this is so fascinating for product marketers, because a 1% improvement in how people perceive our product could be huge, especially if we're doing SaaS at a higher scale. And yeah, I don't see many SaaS brands sort of applying this nudge. I don't see many people talking about potential flaws of their product or exposing a weakness, because it could lead to more preference. And this isn't just a problem with product marketing, it's a problem across marketing in general. There are very few companies that want to highlight flaws, but occasionally you see companies doing it. Since the mid-80s, Buckley's, which is a US cough medicine, have used the slogan, "It tastes awful and it works." And I think this slogan must work because it's been used for the last 40 years, a rare example of someone highlighting a flaw. Listerine used to do something similar. Back in the 70s, they ran a poster ad which read, "I hate it, but I love it. Let me tell you, it tastes lousy, but that's why it works so good." I think this marketing is inspired, and yet we hardly see anything like it today. But when we do, it goes viral and it tends to get really good reviews from marketers and consumers alike. So those of you who have spent a bit of time on LinkedIn or perhaps a bit too much time watching presentations like these may well have seen this poster on the right-hand side. So it's a poster by the Snowbird Ski Resort, and it was originally only published in magazine, and that was until a few fans of the ski resort saw it and really liked it and started sharing it on social. Another fan wrote a Medium article about it, and then it took off. And according to Google, this image has now been published 5,000 times online. Why has this tiny marketing campaign from a small ski resort gone viral? I think it's because it highlights negativity. It plays on the pratfall effect, this idea of imperfection. It shares a review from a customer that says 1 star, I don't like this ski resort because it's too advanced. And highlighting that weakness, finding a smart way to highlight your flaws so you appeal more to a certain audience, is a really great way of capturing attention, a really great way of leveraging the pratfall effect. But I also think it leverages something else. Because we're so tired of seeing endless positivity in marketing. We're so tired of Intercom being the best conversation online platform, or Hotjar having the best website analytics tool, and seeing that messaging time and time again, that a little bit of negativity tends to catch our eye. But I'm well aware that this is my subjective opinion, and that I might have a hard time convincing McDonald's to change their slogan from "I'm loving it" to "I've only got $4. So I wanted to collect some data for myself. I wanted to see if the pratfall effect really could improve my messaging. So I ran a test, one that showed if the pratfall effect is just a gimmick or if it's an effective bias that we could use in our marketing campaigns. Now the test I ran was to create 2 Reddit ads, and these Reddit ads would promote my podcast Nudge. But crucially, they would be different because they would try and improve the effectiveness of the pratfall effect. So these are the 2 ads I created. The first ad was traditional textbook marketing. It highlights all of the positives. This is exactly what we're told to do. It states 5 reasons why you should listen to Nudge. You'll learn the science behind great marketing. Guests include Rory Sutherland, Neil Ale, and Richard Shotton. It has 100,000 downloads and 125 5-star reviews. Episodes are 20-minute long with no fluff, no ads, and you'll learn marketing science that you can replicate. Now, this is not the world's most effective copy. It's not very creative, but it's what the textbook tells us to do. And let's be honest, it's the type of copy that we see time and time again in product marketing messaging, wherever we look. And then I tried a different ad. I put it against a pratfall inspired ad. This is what the second ad said. It's titled 5 Reasons One You'll Realize How Useless Your Marketing Degree Was. Number 2, episodes are packed with examples so you might get a headache. Number 3, you'll piss your colleagues off with your new great ideas. Number 4, it's only 20 minutes with no fillers, which is not ideal for long car journeys. And number 5, you'll learn marketing science, not LinkedIn guru wisdom. Now, I'll be honest with you, I really did not think this experiment would work. I was pushing it. It was way too literal. I was literally telling people not to listen to my show and giving them reasons why. And I accept that these reasons aren't too damning. It's all a bit tongue-in-cheek. It's like the Snowbird Ski Resort, oh, it's too advanced. It's the same sort of approach of these aren't really weaknesses. But I was still saying, don't listen to the show. I really didn't think it would beat the control, which actually gave good reasons to listen to the show. People, social proof, these guests who come on. And yet the results really surprised me. I spent around $110 in total. Over 300,000 people saw the ad, and I couldn't believe the results. The pratfall version not only outperformed the control, it was 4 times more effective. The click rate went up from 0.09 to 0.47. I got a 391% uplift by telling people not to listen to the show, and over 500 new subscribers came from that one ad with only $110 spent. And today, it's probably my most effective bit of messaging. In fact, this is a version of this ad is the ad that I keep running just to keep people coming to the show. And yet, this is something that I would almost never be able to do in a business where I don't have complete creative control, because it's really hard to convince people that highlighting flaws is worthwhile. Yeah, I think it has a big effect. To finish up, I just wanted to share my favorite example of someone benefiting from the pratfall strategy. And it's this guy, Stephen Bradbury. Stephen Bradbury was a speed skater who represented Australia at the 2002 Winter Olympics. Now, you might not be surprised to hear that the Winter Olympics are not a big deal in Australia. It is a hot country. So it was really a massive surprise when Stephen Bradbury made that 2002 speed skating final. He was up against the fastest skaters on the planet, and he had to race them over a kilometre. And that's what he did. Oh, sorry. And he had to race them over a kilometre. He was the slowest person on the course. He was the oldest person racing, and he really stood no chance of winning. So he decided to embrace his flaw. He built his strategy around the pratfall effect, and he used his weakness to his advantage. See, Bradbury knew that every other racer in the race was desperate to win. For them, only gold would do. Now, he could have tried to compete with them, but that would have meant only one of two things. One, he would have tired himself out by halfway and fallen way too far behind. Or two, and this is even more likely, he would have slipped on the ice and not finished, something that's very common in speed skating. So his pratfall-inspired strategy was simple. Skate a few meters behind the other four, benefit from their slipstream that they create, and let them battle it out and hope that one or two get knocked down or disqualified so he could grab a bronze medal. And here's him doing just that. The entire race, he was a couple of meters behind the pack, benefiting from that slipstream. But as he went round lap and lap and lap, it became pretty obvious that he would finish last. He was just clearly not at the same pace as the others. But 10 meters from the finish line, going around the final corner, the Russian tripped. He fell, and he took the American with him. And then the Canadian went as the American fell too. And when the Canadian fell, well, the Chinese athlete was tripped up as well. And meters before the finish line, all four other skaters were lying on the ice, and Bradbury just went past them, crossed the finish line before they could get up. And just like that, Stephen Bradbury became the first athlete from the entire southern half of the planet to win a gold at the Winter Olympics. Not by fighting to compete, not by focusing on his positives, but by embracing his flaw and using his weakness to his strength. All right, I wanted to end on that, but I know you're probably thinking, come on, Phil, this is about product marketing. What's Stephen Bradbury's Winter Olympic gold medal going to teach me about marketing? So I wanted to leave you with one final example of how you can apply this to your product and your product messaging. And it's an example that folks from the UK will have heard of before. It's Marmite. And no doubt, if you're from the UK, you probably would have thought of Marmite as I was giving this talk, because Marmite is a yeast extract spread. Now, that is not what makes it interesting, believe it or not. What makes it interesting is its marketing, because it constantly highlights its flaws. In fact, their slogan is, you'll either love it or you'll hate it. They highlight the fact that lots of people, around 50% of people, literally hate their product. And this type of campaign, this type of product messaging goes against marketing textbook marketing wisdom, but it gets consistent results. They've had this same strategy for years and years. And even variations on this theme continue to get good results even today. In 2014, Unilever produced an 8-week campaign which slightly tweaked the Marmite love it or hate it slogan. In this version, Marmite was pictured as being left at the back of the cupboard, unused and unopened for months. The campaign called to end Marmite Neglect, highlighting the fact that most consumers barely used Marmite despite buying it occasionally. And yet in showcasing this weakness, in showcasing that people don't use their product, sales soared. The brand saw a 14% increase on year-on-year sales, generated an additional 37 million in revenue, and it helped Marmite bag the 2014 Brand of the Year title at Marketing Week's Engage Awards. That is the power of applying science to marketing. That is the power of applying behavior science to product marketing messaging. And that's the power of going beyond textbook marketing and doing what seems right, like highlighting your positives, and actually trying to figure out how people make decisions and embracing your flaws. All right, I really hope you've enjoyed that, folks. You can, of course, learn more about this sort of things by going to nudgepodcast.com and listening to the show. You can sign up for my newsletter where you'll get a weekly tip, just like some of the tips you've seen here, straight into your inbox. But if you want to learn even more, if you want to become a bit of an expert on this stuff and really see how you can apply behavior science to product marketing, you can sign up for my course. And my course is called the Science of Marketing course. It is free. It's completely free to sign up to. Now, usually there's a waiting list, and usually I ask people to leave a review of the show before they can get on. But for you lucky people at Winter Games, I am going to give you free access to the course immediately. So if you sign up for the course by going to scienceofmarketing.teachable.com, entering that URL there, or just going to nudgepodcast.com and pressing courses, if you sign up within the next 24 hours, I won't force you to leave a review of the podcast. I'll just give you full access and you can get going immediately. Just sign up then. So that's how you can learn more. All right, folks, thanks so much for listening and cheers.